Hi everyone, happy Sunday and welcome to week 4. In chapter 4, we're going to be discussing things that influence health based on socioeconomics. So there are 3 components that comprise socioeconomic status, the first of which is economic status. So as indicated, this includes both income and wealth. I find it kind of interesting to read the definition of wealth, seeing that livestock is included in there. And I guess that really goes back to days where many people were farmers and ranchers, and that was part of their livelihood, the number of livestock that they had. Also included is occupational status. So this is going to be the kind of job that you have, whether it's manual labor or a very high skilled job or possessing limited job skills. These are going to result in the kind of occupation that you have. Limited job skills may result in dangerous and or low-paying jobs. And I am so sorry, I have been tongue-tied lately. This is like take 4 on this PowerPoint audio, so you'll have to forgive me as I kind of muddle my way through it. Manual laborers obviously have a much higher mortality rate due to injuries, heart disease, stroke, lung disease, and other gastrointestinal diseases and cancer. So when I think of manual labor, I think of those working in the coal mines and the high incidence of black lung that they experience based on exposure to the coal. Also included in socioeconomic status is educational status. So this is measured in the years of education completed, and then those with a higher education level, as you are all pursuing, may actually have better access to care and medications, and that increased education tends to make individuals more involved and more informed in all aspects of their health care. So obviously, the socioeconomic indicators play a part globally. It's pretty indicative that high-income countries will have a different health profile than those who are developing or are low-income countries. High-income countries such as the U.S. typically have lower infertility rates, lower mortality rates, longer life expectancy, a lower proportion of death from infectious disease, and yet, on the flip side, a much higher proportion of death that is from non-communicable diseases such as obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So give a little thought to why you think that is. I have my own theories. Certainly, as related in some of our discussions last week, we have become a culture of bigger, better, faster, easier, cheaper. So I think that does drive some of our death causes. So we have access to fast, easy food. It's cheaper than a lot of healthy foods. So I think all of those factors come into play when we start talking about global health. So then we have to discuss the vulnerable populations. We discussed this a little bit in week 3, but just to further define who the vulnerable populations are, those would include prisoners, refugees, older adults, people with mental illness or physical impairments, immigrants, ethnic, racial, religious, and tribal minorities, and of course children. So these particular populations may not have equal access to health care or the power to demand it. And this is going to result in health disparities. So these can be on many levels, and these can be a result of both social and political as well as economic environments, but not innate biological differences such as race. So the role of race and ethnicity in health. Race is a superficial category that groups individuals based on physical attributes such as skin color. Ethnicity is based on the dimensions such as cultural heritage, tribal affiliation, nationality, race, religion, and language. So all of those factors can play a part in ethnicity. It is true that there are some races and ethnic groups that are genetically predisposed to certain diseases, such as sickle cell anemia. And there are many health disparities that are a direct result of socioeconomic factors like poverty, overwhelmingly so. Poverty is such a huge factor in health disparities. Chronic psychosocial stressors, also a key factor in health disparities. But I think we will see as we continue to dive into this chapter that poverty is probably, in my opinion, one of the highest determinants. See, can't say that word. One of the highest factors for determining health disparities. And then additionally, members of a particular ethnic group may have the same food preferences, the same way of celebrating, the same kind of lifestyle. So we may find that there are going to be certain diseases that are more prominent and more prevalent in certain ethnicities solely based on their lifestyle. So take into consideration how other cultures may celebrate. The one that comes to mind are Italians. They tend to linger over their meals, and they do drink a lot of alcohol and they eat a lot of fat, but by and far they have a much lower BMI than the average US citizen. So they kind of treat their meal times as a celebration, something to be enjoyed, something to be savored. We think about other ethnic groups and cultures that may play a part in how or what our health outcomes are. So culture is a way of living, believing, behaving, communicating, and understanding the world that is shared by members of our social unit, whether it's religious, ethnic, or otherwise. So as I just mentioned, cultural influences can include dress, food, celebrations, customs, morals, values, language. It also can determine how we choose to deal with disease or injury. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I didn't want to chug water while I was recording. So going back to the role of culture in health, there are a few different approaches to what causes a disease. So one of these, and at the end, I would really like you to think about what your own personal approach is, and is it something that is based on your culture, the way you were brought up. So there's the mechanical approach, which sees disease as a breakdown or dysfunction of the body. I'm sure many of you in the medical field probably subscribe to this approach. Moralistic approach sees good health as a result of clean living and disease as a punishment for wrongdoing. Supernatural approach sees disease as a cause from God or demonic possession or some other sort of curse. So voodoo, spells. The one that I tend to subscribe to is the disequilibrium approach, which I see disease as a result of an imbalance within the body, such as hot, cold, yin yang, or chakras. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a hippie. I do believe in chakras, but I can usually pinpoint when I get sick, it's because I'm unbalanced in some way, whether it's lacking in sleep, lacking in exercise, eating poorly. I guess we could kind of translate that into a mechanical approach as well. So think about your own approach and think about how you kind of came up with this approach. I know I am so far from the norm in my family. I don't think anyone in my family sees it as an disequilibrium approach. I would think my family probably is more of the moralistic approach. So anyway, that is it for chapter 4. I appreciate your patience as I kind of muddled my way through this, and I'll see you in chapter 12.